Happy New Year. It's like
Happy New Year.
2 weeks. Thanks, Kristi. It's 2 weeks into the new year, but I haven't seen Kristi live. We haven't been together with you all live. So it's really makes sense to say Happy New Year right now, which is so funny because somebody yesterday in my personal feed said, how long do you say Happy New Year for? And I think if it's a first and it's still close enough that it feels appropriate, go ahead. So Happy New Year. We wish you all a Happy New Year. And this is my friend and colleague, Kristi Sirignano, who's a functional wellness coach. My name is Linda Downey. If you haven't been in our world before, you're just catching this. We're glad that you're here. We get together. We have created multiple lives together over the years, and both of us are very committed to women's health and wellness in various ways. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but this is streamed in multiple places, probably 6 or 7 different places. So please say hello. We may not see or ask any questions We may not see your hello or your questions in the moment, depending on where they're coming from, because we only see one place at right now, but we will go back and we will look for those comments and make sure we answer your questions if we don't do it live. Kristi, if the question is geared to what Kristi shares and talks about, I'll make sure she has it and can respond, and vice versa. So having said all of that, hey, Kristi, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Really good. I'm really happy that we got this on the calendar because we sort of stopped. I think our last live was in early December, maybe even earlier than that, just with holiday commitments and kids in school. And I got sick after Thanksgiving, so we haven't connected live. And we're really happy to do so. In our conversation today, if you're clicking on, you probably saw the title, but our conversation was Kristi's brainstorm about how do we shift into a way of seeing our life as that we are empowered to create our life. You could just say a mindset, but I decided to say it differently because mindset, I think, can be used a lot. You might have heard mindset, or at least in our coaching world, we hear that all the time. So I thought, let me just say it a little bit differently. But we're really talking about how do you not be a victim and how do you empower your life? How do you have an empowering mindset, right? Bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we often, Linda, talk about health and wellness related topics, obviously. So this may seem a little bit different to some of you, but I think it's so important. Running in the background are these beliefs about whether we are a victim of our circumstances or whether we create the health and the life experience that we want to have. And I think that is so important. And when I work with clients, as Linda said, I'm a functional wellness coach, and I work primarily with women in reversing autoimmune disease, thyroid dysfunction, and hormone imbalances. And when women come to me, I find that I can almost predict in advance their success in achieving their goals and reversing these disease dynamics based on their attitude about whether they are a victim versus whether they create the life that they want to have. And the first step really in any healing journey is deciding, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I am not a victim of my circumstances or of this diagnosis that I've been labeled with. I get to choose. I get to create the life that I want to have.
Yes, it's such a good point. I'm also in health and wellness, a little different approach now, but I did do the same kind of work that you did because I had those health issues. I think you have had your own as well, but I had autoimmune diagnoses, and each time that I would go to the doctor and be told, you have this is why this is happening, I felt like a victim. Like, what's wrong with my body? Why did my body do this? Why did this happen to me? And that's around health. But you can look at any aspect of your life, your relationships, if you've gone through a divorce, if things haven't worked out, if you've struggled. It's very easy to go into, I couldn't help it. It was what that person did. All of the things that make you feel victim-y and feel betrayed. And what you said is so key, I believe, because you're right, you can predict a lot. It depends on how much a person is willing to give that up and to move into our friend. We have a mutual friend, Jody, an amazing coach who we've both worked with. And she always says, not on my watch. If you take the mindset of not on my watch, this is my lifetime. This is what I'm here to do and live and create. If you take that, hi, Brown Smith just said hi. Hi, Brown. Thanks for joining us. If you take the mindset of, or the approach to your life of, not on my watch, I'm going to say how it goes. I may not know how at this point to get there. I may not know all of the best strategies to use, but what I do know is I'm going to make it go the way I want. And that will be the defining factor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, this has been so true in my own life. On Monday, I just shared a shortened version of my experience with autoimmunity in my private Facebook community, which if you're not a member of that, you are very welcome to join. Just ask in the comments and I will share the link to that group with you. But I did a live in there on Monday sharing the story of my autoimmunity. And I had to reach the point when on New Year's Eve, 9 years ago now, I crawled into bed at midnight. My arms and legs and feet were just hurting. I was in pain all over. My ankles were swollen. My knees, I looked down and were black and blue and bruised for absolutely no reason. Like I hadn't had an injury or an accident. It was just the inflammation and autoimmunity. I had these random skin issues and I just been kind of living with it. Even doing what I do, right? Knowing what I know, I had just been living with it and kind of ignoring it. And it was literally New Year's Eve, 9 years ago. I looked down as I crawled into bed and saw my black and blue swollen knees and thought, this cannot continue, right? Enough. I am not going to live like this one more day. And the very next morning, as we were driving home from visiting family, over the holidays, my husband was driving and I was sitting in the car making notes on my phone of the things that I was going to do to reverse this, applying all of my own coaching and teaching, the food changes that I was going to make, the sleep changes, the stress, the labs that I wanted to run on myself. And honestly, it didn't take very long at all. Within 10 days of me committing and saying no more and radically changing my eating choices just for 10 days, like 80-90% of those symptoms disappeared. And
Yeah.
it was an ongoing process, obviously, of peeling back the rest of the layers and making sure that I reverse these dynamics for good. But it's all started with that one decision of me saying, why have I been ignoring this for so long? No more, not on my watch. I am not going to live like this for one more day. And
Yeah.
so I think it's so important for us to make that decision so often. And I know you've probably had this experience too, Linda, with clients that you have served and worked with. Women come to me and say, oh, but I have anxiety. Oh, but I have multiple sclerosis. Oh, but I have this diagnosis or that diagnosis. And it is so common for us to strap on that diagnosis like it's part of our identity, like it is who we are. And suddenly it becomes the reason we feel the way we do, the excuse for why we are feeling exhausted and in pain and not living the life that we want to live, instead of saying, okay, I have these symptoms. It's been given this name, but I am not going to live like this. And doing the work that it is going to take to reverse those dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I work with people in the stress and anxiety and when life isn't going the way they want realm, because it's all the same root cause. It's all the same thing in the background, whether it's health. I just did a post yesterday. Maybe some people who watch this or watch the replay later may have seen that post, which was your physical body is the manifestation of what you think and feel. So if you think and feel something long enough, if you've been ignoring things long enough, they will be expressed in your physical body. And then people who don't think that they have any ability or power to change that will just keep ignoring the physical things in the body, like, oh, this is just what I have. But when you get to the place of that decision of absolutely not, I'm going to say how it goes, not on my watch, all of those things, you'll do whatever it takes. And if you're not in that space, if you haven't crossed, it's like a line, it's like a line in the sand. If you've not stepped over that line in the sand. So for those of you watching, it's the same with your relationships. If you are in relationship after relationship and it feels disconnected and unsatisfying, or there's a block, or there are walls up, or whatever, it takes stepping over the line in the sand to say, I'm not settling for that anymore, whether it's my physical body or this in relationships or being personally fulfilled. If you don't cross that line, you won't pay $5, you won't pay $99, you won't pay $10,000 because you don't believe you can. When you do cross that line, it's like, got it. What do I need to do? I'm going to do it. I don't care what it takes. This is no longer a possibility for how I'm going to live my life. And it's that line that we're talking about. Whether it's the money that you think of, or it's whatever your circumstances are, I'm too busy, or, well, every woman in my family has thyroid disorder, so of course I do. Whatever's the thing that has you think this is the way it's got to go, rather than this is the way I'm going to make it go. That's the line we're talking about. So how do you get people, Kristi? I mean, some of it is they have to step into and be willing to, and deciding to let that go. But is there anything that you do specifically to help people step over that line?
Yeah, this is the conversation that we have usually in one of our very first conversations when I talk with new clients, because I think it is so important. And we for the most part, we were raised in a society where we believe we are the victim of our genes or circumstances, and that if we have a chronic health condition, it's just the way it is. It's just something we're going to have to live with and control with medications. And that is just not true, right? That is a lie that we have been fed. And it is not true. And it is so disempowering. And so I think it is one of the first steps in any healing journey is taking back the power and authority over your own health and life, and realizing that you do have so much more power, so much more control over your health than any of us were taught as children, than most of us still realize today as adults, and that there is so much you can do. And so we have these conversations, and I say with so much love and no judgment or no shame intended, but right, you don't feel terrible because you have Hashimoto's, or because you have whatever this disease is, whatever this label is. You feel terrible because, or you have this disease dynamic because you haven't been caring for your human body in the way that she requires, in the way that she is calling you to do. And when we begin to do that, it's amazing what can happen, right? All of these symptoms, all of these disease dynamics disappear almost like magic, right? Because suddenly we're nourishing our body, we're caring for her, we're dealing with the stress and all of the things that dysregulate our immune system, create inflammation, dysregulate our hormones, all of these different layers, everything fits together into one unique puzzle that makes up your unique health story. But it starts with taking back the control and choosing to love and care for your human body in the way that she is asking you to, in the way that maybe you haven't done your entire life, or certainly for most of us for many, many years.
Yeah. And we haven't, because we decided to agree with the notion that we're not as important as other things. What other people need has to come first. All of that kind of thinking. to my mind, God knew the perfect design when he created a human being. So our bodies are really designed. The way conventional medicine looks at us is this system. There's a specialist for this, a specialist for that, a specialist for that. You go to this person if you have that, you go to that person, and it breaks us all up, right? God didn't make us that way. We are one complete unit that is designed. There's like checks and balances in our body. There's an immune system to handle the bacteria and the viruses. There's an endocrine system for hormones. There's a digestive system. When those systems are addressed individually and not supported and working together and not getting the right messages from the main system, which is the nervous system. Like the nervous system is the head CEO of the company that's saying, wait, we're under stress, stop digesting your food. And you do that enough times, now you've got digestive issues. Wait, it's not time to fight this virus. We have other things that are more important. And that's the nervous system is sort of sending that out, and the whole body is responding. That is a perfect plan. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, but this is in my family, we have these genes, and you've never heard of epigenetics, I'm going to encourage you to, at some point after this live, look up epigenetics. Maybe next week we'll continue a talk deeper about that, Kristi, if you want, unless we have something else. But epigenetics is the science-based field of looking at how we create our physical health, our physical experience beyond or above our genes. So our genes are there. It's like a light switch when you walk into the room. You either turn the switch on or you shut it off. So if you have the switch, because all of the other women in your family do for breast cancer or thyroid autoimmunity or Crohn's disease, whatever it is, if there's a switch for that and you're doing all the things that don't support your body, the switch is going to be turned on. But you can turn the switch off. Just because everybody else has had it, just because the expectation in our culture is as you age. I mean, let's talk about aging, right? There's this just acceptance of aging is supposed to look like this, this, and this. We get more and more immobile. We get heavier. We get diseases. Blood pressure happens. No, that's not a function of aging. That's a function of long-term not taking care of your body. And so in your relationships too, if you are not listening to what you need and expressing it, if you are stuck in patterns of the silent treatment, let me just use one as a, that's the way things went in your house. That's what happens now in your adult household. You're not supporting what it takes to have a healthy, authentic relationship. It's the same thing. So of course you're having relationships, or you're in relationships that don't feel the way you want to feel in them, that aren't feeling connected. It's really the same thing in the background. Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes people, will see the problem in one area, oh, my health, but not apply what we're talking about to the other areas, or
Yep.
relationships, but not realize it applies to physical health. It applies across the board, every aspect of your life. It really does. And until you start to consider that and sit back and look at that and then step into it from that lens, you won't really see how much it connects. So you just have to take our word for it.
Yes. And that is what Linda and I both love to do in working with clients, is help you understand how all of those things fit together and make the changes to care for your body in the way that she's asking for, so that you flip that switch off. And even if you do have a genetic predisposition towards autoimmunity or towards breast cancer or towards whatever it is, diabetes, that does not mean that that is your destiny by any means at all. You have the control to flip that switch off. So I think it's such a powerful thing to understand. And the first step is really understanding, yes, I have the power. And two, drawing that line in the sand that Linda talked about, saying, not another day am I going to live like this, being a victim. And one other thing that I was thinking about in preparing for just before we got on today, Linda, is a tool called the accountability ladder. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'd love to hear about it.
So it is something that I think is used a lot in the corporate world, but I think it can apply to any any situation, as you were saying, our health, our relationships, our work, our professional lives, anything. But it is a system. So if you imagine a ladder, and I would encourage all of you to look this up when we get off of this live, just take a minute and look this up because I think it's a really amazing tool. It's called the accountability ladder. It's a really amazing tool for self evaluation and reflection to think, where do I fall on this ladder? And it may be different places in different aspects of your life, right? So the first four levels, if you think of this as a ladder going up, the first level is the bottom. The first four levels tend to be people who believe things happen to them
Mm,
and they behave more as victims. Whereas the higher levels, the fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth levels, tend to be people who believe that things happen because of them. And they behave in ways that are proactive and truly accountable for the results that they are creating. So the first level is unaware. This is someone who just doesn't even realize that there is a problem, right? I didn't know. No one ever told me. This was me back in my early childhood and youth when I struggled with really significant anxiety and I didn't even realize what it was. I didn't realize that it wasn't normal. Right? I was completely unaware. So, level two is you're aware of the situation or the problem, but you might choose to blame other people or your circumstances, right? Oh, it's genetics. Oh, everyone in my family has autoimmune disease. Level three is making excuses. Level four is just wait and hope, right? So maybe we know that this situation is happening and we know that it's not what we want in our lives, but we're not ready to take any action, right? We're just going to sit here and wait and kind of hope for the best. Then level five is acknowledging reality, acknowledging there is a problem and I need to do something about it. Level six is really owning it. Level seven is finding a solution. And level eight is taking action.
yeah, I
And
love that. You can really see it.
yeah, so you can just, again, I would encourage you guys to look this up and just kind of think about where you fall. If there are areas in your life, and I think this is a great thing to reflect on in January as we start a new year, is what are the areas of my life that I'm not satisfied with? Is it my health? Is it my relationships? Is it my professional life? And where do I fall on this accountability ladder in terms of how aware I am, whether I'm ready to take action to make changes to create the life experience that I want to have.
Yeah. And it's totally fine, like no judgment. As I was thinking as you were saying that, like in my social media world, when I post something, or maybe you've seen I do these little coffee conversations in the morning over my cup of coffee, and a lot of people will write in a comment or say how much it resonates with them. A lot of them, it resonates, but they are not ready to make a change. They're just not. It's sort of like, oh yeah, that sounds like me. But then they want to just really stay where it's kind of being willing to leave your comfort zone. Not kind of, that's a big part of it, right? Being willing to leave your comfort zone versus, I could see that, but nope, I'm staying right here. Um, so for the moment, there might be an awareness, but then it sort of disappears. And that's fine. Again, no judgment, but it's really like, who is the person that is not willing to stay there anymore and wants something different for their life? So I love that ladder as a visual. I could really see that as you went through it. That sounds like a great tool. And you can also, I think, look at the language that you use throughout the day. So here's something that I do with some of my clients, and then maybe we'll wrap it up. But we look at the languaging. So one example could be if you are saying things like, she makes me feel so guilty, or when I go into work, I feel really bad if they whatever, or they make me feel bad, or if in a relationship, if your languaging is always saying the other person makes you feel a certain way, then you're pretty low on the accountability ladder, because what you're doing is saying, I'm not in charge of my emotions. I'm not in charge of my experience. I'm not in charge of how I feel about that. It's all about that person. They have the power over me. And also with your language, if you're, or language / emotions, but if you're like, I feel so depressed, or I feel so burdened about whatever it is. Oh, well, why? Tell me what happened. Well, 2 years ago, my ex-spouse cheated on me and we got divorced, but I'm still really upset about it, which means for 2 years, you've decided to stay in that place, that emotional place. Oh, you have like beautiful sunlight coming across your face now. It's like, it's good. Yeah, that's better though. You're clearer now. The sun must have moved. But anyway, you're like staying in the story of things for a long, long time. That would also be someone who's staying on the bottom of the ladder and not choosing to move past it. So noticing your language, the way you give so much power to other people, and that can go to like your childhood. Well, this is how my life is because my parents were jerks. I get a lot of people who send me messages. My parents were terrible. My father was an alcoholic. My this, my that. Let me tell you, I've had my share of challenges. It's a choice to stay there. So those are some of the tools that I, dig in on with my clients as well. So Kristi, if people wanted to reach out to you specifically around health issues and they wanted to just connect with you, I'll put the link for, what would it be, to the group? Is that where you want to send them, your group?
Yeah, that's great. If people want to reach out and connect in the group, feel free to send me a message. Since we're on Facebook, feel free to send me a direct message, or my website is kristisiriano.com. And, Linda and I, it is our greatest joy and fulfillment in life to help people get past whatever it is that they're struggling with. In my case, it's primarily autoimmune disease, hormone imbalances, and thyroid dysfunction. Linda works with a lot of different types of emotional trauma and hard things that you've been through in your life. And I know your program is called Return to You, which I think is just so beautiful, because isn't that what we all want to do, is return to the perfect human, the essence of who we were put here on this earth to be, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So if you are nearing the top of that accountability ladder, ready to own where you are and find a solution and take action, Linda and I would both love to be part of that solution for you.
Absolutely. So well said. I'm not even going to add anything to that. Kristi's name is right there on the screen. Plus, we'll put it in the comments. And we get together every week. So today it's on Thursday because I'm traveling tomorrow. I'll be traveling really all day. So next week, we're probably going to be doing this on Fridays, right?
That's the plan. Yes.
That's the plan. So next week, you can kind of put that in your calendar, maybe Fridays, and we never know what we're going to talk about till we decide like that morning, but we're going to talk about something. So we'll see you again there, and we'll look for these comments now. As I said, this is streaming in probably 7 different places, so we'll go back and look. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Linda. It's always so much fun talking with you.
Yeah, Kristi, you too. I love you. Love you guys too. Thanks for watching.
Love you too. And thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us for a little while.
Yeah. Ciao.